All right, so I think we're all set here. Okay. Yeah, my setup here is a little bit crazy. I haven't done any live streaming from the back of my car before. I used to live stream back when I did piano performances, but that was all years ago, and I haven't done this in a while. So we're live streaming from the back of my car, and I'm up in the mountains actually, and the cell phone connection here is actually pretty solid. They have a good signal here for the Seattle City light workers that work up in the mountains here in this area. So hopefully you guys can actually see what's going on. We'll see. I also have my microphone setup is a little bit weird too, but I think it's gonna be working. Just let me know if I suddenly cut out or something. So anyways, I want to welcome everyone to my first live stream on this channel anyways. Today is my celebration of 2 years living in a vehicle of one sort or another. So I've been living in various vehicles for 2 years. I actually lived on a sailboat temporarily. That was about 3 years ago. So I haven't really talked about that story a little bit too much, and how I ended up deciding to go with car life, van life, and then car life again. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the sailboat, exactly what happened with that. Hopefully that will be something you guys are entertained by. Basically what happened was I had gone back to school to finish my piano performance degree. Uh, Originally, I was a double major, mechanical engineering and piano performance, the first time I was in school, and I ended up actually deciding that I didn't want to do mechanical engineering anymore. I basically finished the degree. I had a couple professors that didn't allow me to graduate, even though I had all the grades, I'd taken all the classes and everything, and I ended up working as a mechanical engineer anyways. And basically, I got hired out of my senior project that I did for that degree. And after doing that for a while, I realized that this wasn't really the right career path for me. I didn't like sitting in front of the computer all day, just wasn't pleasant. I didn't enjoy the other engineers that I was working with, the kind of corporate environment that I was working in. And I wasn't working for any large companies or anything. This was a smaller organization that I ended up working for. And so I ended up deciding that I was going to save up some money and go back to school and finish my piano performance degree, since I had almost finished that as well. I couldn't do both degrees at the same time when I was in school the first time. So I wasn't quite done with my piano performance degree. I was missing a few classes, and so I decided to go back to school, which is a good thing anyways, because I needed a better teacher, and I just happened to be one of the best teachers in the country was right there in Seattle. So I ended up going back to school. So while I was in school, actually, the housing market got crazy. Basically, what happened was Amazon decided that they were going to dump, what was it, something like 1,500 workers a month or something in the middle of downtown Seattle. And combined with all the other tech industries that were going on there, I mean, property prices just went through the roof. And this was long before the pandemic. This was several years before the pandemic. And and this was while I was still in school. So, like, my last semester or two were really kind of crazy. And I was realizing that I was basically getting priced out of Seattle. So one of the things that I've always wanted to do ever since I was a kid was live on a boat. I've built boats before, built kayaks. I built a sailboat for my senior project in high school, actually. It was a small sailboat. And so I decided that I was going to find a sailboat. You can find sailboats for basically free that need repairs, because sailboat storage is a little bit more expensive, but the repairs, if you do themselves, they're actually very affordable. And so that's what I did. I found a free sailboat. So hopefully we can see here. So this was my sailboat. After I'd done some work to it, it mostly needed cosmetic repairs. There were some structural things inside that were a problem, but the basic structure of the boat was in really good condition. There was a Buchan 37 named Pursuit, and it was built by a local builder. Uh, and he was actually still alive. It's in 1965, and unfortunately, I never talked to him. But he built that sailboat, and so I picked this thing up for. I think I actually ended up paying the guy like $100 to take it off his hands. He decided he wanted to go live on a sailboat that was already ready to go, basically. But I realized my rent was not increasing quite in line with everyone else's rent because just the living situation I was in. The building was owned by people that owned the building just outright since the 70s, and they didn't realize that the prices for real estate were going up. So I thought, maybe I had a couple of years of cheap rent, and so while I had that cheap rent, I was gonna go fix up the sailboat. And so that's basically what happened. Is um, I was working. I'd already established basically my piano teaching business, and as soon as I graduated, I started working on the sailboat. And so on my days off, I gave myself 2 days off, which was probably a smart idea. I decided to go and this sailboat was actually located a couple hours from where I lived, and so I'd go down there on the weekends. I could stay on the sailboat at night, and I was fixing up the sailboat. It was already in the water and everything. The exterior, you can see in the picture here. So the exterior has this blue paint on it. So this is bottom paint. This is supposed to be underwater. So this paint was fresh. The previous owner had just hauled it out, but for some reason he decided to coat the entire boat in this bottom paint, which is why it looks so terrible. Yeah, so this looks absolutely terrible, right? But everything else, but it was actually clean, so it could stay in the water for as long as it needed to. And so basically, what happened is I started working on it. The engine, at first it ran, but it had a lot of issues, and I ended up realizing pretty quickly that it needed to be rebuilt. So I rebuilt the engine. That took probably about a year of messing around with the engine, tinkering with it, getting that thing to work right. But we got that solid eventually, and then the rest of it was just getting the interior all sorted out. So this was actually right before I sold it. And so this was the interior of the boat. I actually had my piano. It was down here right next to the settee here. And because I had the digital piano, that's all I could use in the apartment anyways. So I decided to take that and put it in the boat. And the plan originally was to teach remotely. And that plan basically didn't really work out. When I tried transitioning to teaching remotely, for some reason I couldn't really get anyone interested. And so this kind of got put on hold until my lease ended, and I decided that I wasn't going to renew my lease, and I was just going to live on the sailboat. And so basically what happened when I tried to move on to that sailboat was the marinas in the area stopped accepting liveaboard. Well, they stopped accepting liveaboards, mostly because of local regulations. Marinas generally like liveaboards, at least a certain percentage of their boats being liveaboards, because liveaboards actually do generally take care of their boats really well, and they keep an eye on things in the marina, make sure no one's sinking. They keep a really good lookout for kind of shady stuff that's going on sometimes at marinas. But a lot of the local jurisdictions in the Seattle area and other places in the country, they come up with all kinds of excuses of why they do this. They tend to do this with a lot of low cost of living situations, and that's basically, basically I wasn't able to stay at any of these marinas anymore. And yeah, so I ended up having to sell the boat, and during that process, my car actually got totaled when I was moving onto the boat, and that ended up costing me several $1,000s. And so yeah, that's basically how that I ended up living in my car the first time. So this was actually my car. If you've been around the channel for long enough, this was my car that I moved into. So I did that briefly after my sailboat didn't work out. And so this is my little Hyundai Elantra, which was a place to live. Oh, what's going on here? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So this was my Hyundai Elantra, and I lived in this little Hyundai Elantra for about a week, actually, up in the mountains. So I was teaching in student homes in a relatively wealthy area, and so the nearest place that I could park at all, really, for the night was basically over the pass over in eastern Washington. And so that's how I ended up getting into car life. Is I started living in this car briefly, and I was driving down from the mountains every day into this wealthy area, and I was teaching lessons, and then going back over the mountains at night. And it actually worked out pretty well. I realized it wasn't going to be possible to stay up there. Oh, hello. So I realized it wasn't really going to be possible to stay the up in the mountains like I had originally planned, um, because the mountain passes, even in the fall, they start getting kind of sketchy. They get a lot of snow and ice and stuff, so your travel times can go from basically like an hour going over the pass to, um, it gets way up there, 2 3 hours. Sometimes you just have to wait. So it's not really practical to do that year round. So I ended up having to move in with my dad temporarily. So that's what I did for. So that was my first experience with car life. Actually, was doing car life in this little car. So the problem with that was the other problem I had was I was still teaching and I was relying on piano lessons for most of my income, and I was performing regularly as well. And obviously, you can't put a piano in this thing. Well, unless you're just moving it. I put my piano in this car many times, but I was just moving it around. So I came up with this plan of buying a school bus, putting the piano in it, and so where is that? Yes, my school bus. So this was my schoolie. Um, so there's lots of things on my channel about the schoolie because I started this channel when I bought this bus. I didn't really post too much originally with it, but yeah, so I had this bus. It needed some things. It didn't run quite right, which was a running theme with this bus. Um, but in general, it was actually in pretty good shape. And the interior was already done, it was already registered as an RV. So I decided to, um, I decided to put my piano in there. And I was planning on doing something similar to what I was planning originally with the sailboat, just teaching remotely maybe from the bus. And that was the idea. So right after, well, it was actually right before I bought the bus, the pandemic hit, and basically it just shut down my studio. There wasn't any way that I could teach while living in the bus. Um, or there wasn't any way I could teach because of the pandemic, and yeah, also living in the bus, I couldn't store the bus anywhere close to where I was teaching. So the whole thing just didn't really work out, um, and so I ended up taking this job as a delivery driver. I had already started flex driving, and the bus still wasn't ready. My dad had to move to California for work, and so I ended up deciding that instead of living in the bus, I was just going to live in my car. And so that was how I ended up living in my car, which was pretty fun. Hello. Yeah, so I was living in my car for, I don't know, what was it? 6 months? No, it was less than that. It was maybe 3 months, something like that. And I didn't really know what I was doing yet, so I was staying at state parks, and that was pretty much it. I hadn't really figured out how to, uh, you know, camp anywhere other than just, your normal campgrounds at state parks. And sometimes I come up here actually to the mountains. This was one of the first campgrounds I came to where I am right now. And so that was a pretty cool experience. I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't going to have time to teach and play piano all that much. And so I kind of ended up in this position where I had this bus and I had my car. Um, and yeah, it was kind of really difficult trying to decide exactly how I was going to do things. But what I ended up deciding to do was, um, I was going to sell the car and just live in the bus full time once I got the bus running properly. And so that's basically what I did. And about that time, I actually ended up accidentally driving the bus into work. And so they saw the bus and they offered to let me just stay at work. And uh, from there, I kind of started experimenting a lot more with living in with living in free campsites and just living at work when I was at work and just basically going and basically doing that. So that actually worked out really well. I was really happy with that. And so yeah, the rest you probably know because it's been a lot more recent. Yeah, so the rest you probably know because it's a lot more of kind of recent history. So yeah, the bus basically I lived in this bus for quite a while. I sold the car. The bus just ended up not being reliable enough, and it ended up. And it wasn't so much that it wasn't just unreliable; it was that getting the repairs done was so difficult that I couldn't do it. Um, I just couldn't make it work financially, and I realized the amount of money I was spending on things like rental cars and repairs. I could just have a functional vehicle that was reliable, and I realized I couldn't really play piano anyways. So yeah, I decided to move into this car. This is the SUV that I chose because I figured at some point, if I figured out how to work remotely, I could pull a trailer, something like that, and so that was the plan, to stick to the piano in a trailer and go on trips and stuff like that. It hasn't really worked out so much that way, and since then, yeah, I think anyone who's on this live stream probably knows most of the story with this car. I've just been working. Right now, I'm about to start my CDL training. I think I just got a call actually. What was it? 2 days ago from the company that I'm supposed to be that's supposed to do the training. They're the CDL school, and apparently the owner of the CDL school died. He was found dead in a ditch on the side of the road, Whidbey Island. And so the school doesn't know exactly whether they're going to be able to continue classes or not, which is really sad. I mean, I didn't know this guy, never met him, but it definitely. So I don't know if I'm actually be able to go to CDL school at this location. I don't know exactly what the fallout from this is going to be, but it's really. But yeah, so that's the story with CDL school. Um, that's kind of where I am right now. Basically, I'm just waiting for CDL school to start. It should start next week if all goes well, and we'll just see what's happening. Oh, hello. All right. Okay. This is going to be kind of interesting because I don't have exactly a lot of headroom, and my phone is pretty much at the other end of my car. So if I'm super close to the camera, that's what's going on. If my head's sideways, that's what I'm probably reading comments. All right. Oh, everyone's saying hi to each other. That's lovely. Oh yes, Ava. Hello, Ava. Yes, I am excited to start trucking school if it actually happens. I don't know if it's going to happen. Um, if it doesn't happen here, it's just going to happen at a different location. So we'll see. No, scrolling down. Okay, there we are. So let's see. Oh, okay. Started okay, yeah. Yeah, I was reading this comment about doing delivery at the RV park and the lady with the trailer attached for pickup. Yeah, so that's actually really common around here. You see a lot of, I've done tons of deliveries. I actually did a bunch of deliveries to an RV park, was it yesterday? And yeah, a lot of people started out living in their cars. I actually rescued, so there was kind of a funny story. When I first got this car, I was actually driving around on forest roads, and there was this guy out in there were, well, a couple of guys recognized their car. They got a flat tire out in the middle of this forest road, and so I picked them up and drove them back to their RV. But yeah, there's just a couple of retired guys. One of them lives in his pickup, the other one lives in a giant RV. Yeah, you see that kind of stuff all over out here. All right, let's keep scrolling down here. Sorry, I'm responding to these questions really late. Oh, okay. So, all right. So it was asking me questions here. I'm getting really behind. So, yes, well, kind of. So I kind of work for Amazon. So I don't directly work for Amazon. Basically, how I got started with working as a delivery driver was I was flex driving, which is directly for Amazon. That's where you use your car, your personal car, to pick up packages, make deliveries. And so that's how I got started. Did that right at the beginning of the pandemic. That was the first delivery job I had, but I realized really quickly that that wasn't going to make me any money, basically. I mean, it solves kind of the immediate problem, but when you start taking into account things like maintenance of your vehicle, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't know why anyone would continue doing that unless I think Prius. I think the numbers do work out if you have like a Prius or something that's really efficient and low maintenance. But for most normal cars, flex driving doesn't normally work out that well. So yeah, I ended up deciding that I was going to work as a DSP driver, which is basically the same job I was already doing, and so that's using delivery vans. So the delivery vans are owned by Amazon, but they're leased to independent contractors. So I don't work for Amazon directly. Although now we have Amazon benefits, so I don't know how they can justify that. But that's a whole other issue. Um, this is so silly. Okay. Okay. So how did I learn to play piano? Oh, so yeah, so I've been playing piano since I was about 3. My dad played piano. He was actually an organ performance minor in college, but he's been playing piano since he was a kid. My mom actually taught me most of the beginner stuff in piano. She was a clarinet major, and yeah, so we just learned. So that my parents both taught me how to play originally. I think it was about 7 or 8 when I got an actual piano teacher, and yeah, so from there I just kept. I started performing more, started doing competitions in high school. I Yeah, and then yeah, so in college, basically what happened in college was I didn't go in originally planning to be a piano performance major. But I was invited to become a piano performance major. So I was taking lessons, and one of the things when you take lessons in college is you have to perform for the music staff. And they were like, "Hey, why aren't you a piano performance major? You play pretty decently." And I was like, "Okay, I guess." And so that's how that started. I mean, I really enjoyed it, anyways. And there were several times when I actually thought about dropping engineering, which I should have done. The only reason I didn't drop engineering was because I never had an internship, and I thought I could make more money doing it, and that turned out to not be true. Oh, you do Uber Eats? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uber Eats. Yeah, so all those things like Uber and Amazon Flex, they all have similar problems. Sometimes you can make a lot of money, but a lot of the time, yeah, it's hard. It just depends on the vehicle you're driving, really, and also just other people that are out there driving. Oh, I don't know if I'm really good at piano, but I've played a long time. Camp Giving? Oh, nice. Yeah, so yeah, that is one thing that I should probably make a video about what happens on holidays, since my family doesn't live around here anymore. But I do have friends, so I've been going over to my friends' houses for holidays. That didn't work last Christmas. I don't know if anyone that's here was actually around when I was doing this last Christmas, but I actually got caught in a snowstorm at work last Christmas, so I ended up spending Christmas by myself in the bus in the parking lot at work. It was pretty fun, but you know. Okay, yeah. Yeah. So what my friends and coworkers think of me living in a car? Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah. So I've actually I tend to be pretty open and honest with people about what I'm doing. I didn't don't really never really tried to hide the fact that I was living in a car, but I don't think anyone really knew at work. So my family in general, they knew I was moving into the car because I was living with my dad at the time, of course. And he was like, "Well, what on earth are you gonna do without me here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna move into my car because the bus isn't ready." And so that's what I did. I moved into my car. So my dad's known, my mom's known as well since the beginning. They aren't super happy about it. So most of the older people in my family, like my parents' generation, they don't approve at all. Kind of interesting. So my grandparents, they're much more outdoorsy types of people, and so they're actually a little bit more understanding. They all have campers and RVs and stuff, and so they think it's kind of crazy. But then they also, I also showed them like the price of rent out here in Seattle, and they're like, "Yeah, okay, we can kind of get why you're doing that. That rent is just insane." But yeah, my parents' generation doesn't really get it. My sister doesn't really get it. Um, my cousins, so I have cousins that I grew up with. They basically lived at my house most of the time, and one of them not super sold on any of the van life, car life type of stuff. But I have another cousin that she actually did van life. She lived in a van with her boyfriend for a couple of years until they broke up. So that was pretty cool. So she gets it. I talk to her periodically, although she disappeared. She's I don't know where she is, but yeah, she's living with someone else. So my coworkers, yeah, my coworkers are. So it depends on the coworker, of course, but most of them understand pretty well. So, I mean, when we first started out, we weren't really making any money. Amazon drivers were barely being paid above minimum wage when I first started, and I'm definitely probably one of the best paid Amazon workers, mostly because I've been there the longest. I have a really good driving score and all that. Um, and so, yeah, when I first started, none of us were making any money, and so everyone pretty much understood why I was living in a vehicle. Uh, the people that saw my bus, they were the people that run the company basically, and they're the owners of my little delivery company, and so they all understand why I'm doing it too. One of them was interested in living in a step van, and he's pretty into van life. He's into social media stuff, so he knows about this. So he's been pretty cool with it. Actually, so all of the owners and all my bosses at work have been totally fine with it. Um, my coworkers, it kind of varies. Some of them think I'm homeless because we do have genuine homeless people that live like in homeless shelters that I work with, and that's really sad. But that's I mean, that's just kind of the state of housing around here. It's just there's not enough housing. No one wants to build anymore, and so the prices are just going crazy. And yeah, I mean, we make actually pretty decent money anymore, but you have to have at least two incomes to afford rent at any apartment, basically. So if you're single, it's either live with some live in some sketchy situation, or yeah, it's living in a vehicle. So there's actually several people at work that live in the parking lot with me, and they're so I have coworkers that are my neighbors. So that's actually pretty fun. But yeah, I had one coworker. He's not from the U.S. at all. So he I don't know what he thought, but he offered to do my laundry for me one time. I was like, oh, okay, I guess. So he gave him my work uniform to wash one night. But yeah, in general, no, most people at work are pretty understanding. I mean, it's just the way things are out here. It's hard to live. But part of the problem now is that my wages are actually so the wages up here are actually pretty high compared to most of the country, and we don't have an income tax. So that's part of the problem with me moving anywhere else. Is even if I was doing the same job pretty much anywhere else except California, maybe I would be making less money, like significantly less money, and so I mean the wages are kind of what keep you here. Scroll up further. Oh, people in the Northeast have a hard time wrapping their heads around the idea. Yeah, so that is certainly true. Yeah, so my family, so my mom and my sister actually just bought a house together out in Boston, and I mean so Boston and Seattle actually have pretty similar housing prices, I think, and yeah, so they bought a half the house for insane amounts of money, like well over $1 million, and I'm just like, really? That I mean, she has a kid, so I understand, but what? Someone stole your clothes out of the laundromat? Yeah, so I haven't really talked too much recently about how I do my laundry, but um, yeah, so I actually searched around to find. Well, so first I have to explain. So I work just north of Seattle, and then um, on the weekends I go usually further north. So if you go down south towards Seattle, you hit lots of heavy traffic, and there aren't a lot of places to spend the night down there. I mean, unless you want to go hang out with some really sketchy people on the side of the road. But most normal people, they go north. So basically north of Seattle and the Canadian border. And so I tend to just kind of drive around up here on the weekends. There's lots of campsites and stuff. And so I searched for basically the best laundromat that I could find in this huge area that I just kind of drive around in. And so I found it, but it's yeah, it's not in the best part of town. It's in one of those small towns between Seattle and the Canadian border, and so yeah, there's lots of interesting characters that show up there. Um, I don't know. No one stole my laundry yet. I keep a pretty close eye on it, but yeah, no, I haven't had that issue. Yeah. So the other thing. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say about the laundry. Um, Yeah, so the laundry actually isn't staffed by anyone. Um, there's no one actually physically at this laundry place. So um, yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird place because you can pay online. That's how I end up doing it because they have this ATM and a coin machine, and it's actually the only place I get quarters. But I never use the quarters at the laundromat. I pay online for the washer and dryer just because it's a lot easier and it's a lot less sketchy. But I do use the quarter machines there because I take showers at the campgrounds out here, and the campgrounds are, at least in this part of Washington, they're quarter operated. So there's been a few times when I've just kind of wandered into the laundromat and put in the $20 bill and pulled out a bunch of quarters, but there's no one there. I'm sure they caught it on camera. They have camera surveillance, so probably wondering what on earth I'm doing. But I don't know. I'm a regular, so you know. Oh yeah, ATMs are yeah, especially that ATM. Yeah, I don't use that ATM. Yeah, the fees it charges are insane. I I don't know. Yeah, yeah. So getting quarters. So banking in general is actually a bit of has been a bit of a problem for me. So I'm actually part of two credit unions. One of them is one of them was set up from my dad when I was a kid. The other one was from my business. So I ended up having to use a different bank. But the problem with the credit unions is the one I have for my business is more common. They have them all over, but they don't have any cash in these banks. So you can't get quarters. You can't get any bills except out of whatever you can get out of the ATM. Uh, so so yeah, and then I have an online bank now because my credit unions don't like it when I travel at all. So if I'm more than like an hour or two away from the address that I have, they don't let me withdraw money from my bank account, basically. So yeah, I ended up with this kind of overly complex system of yeah. If I need quarters, what I have to do is I can use a shared branching with my credit union to get a cash out at an ATM somewhere. And then, so I have to find a credit union. Then I have to go to the laundromat and then put the money in to the laundromat to get the quarters and then use the quarters. So yeah, if I run out of quarters for showers, it's, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half ordeal to actually get the quarters again to go take a shower. It's absolutely crazy. But that's how it is. Oh, Tim Short. Yeah, I don't think I've seen Tim Short today, but yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I like his content, but I mean, it's like anything. I totally disagree with like half of what he says, but that's cool. I don't care. I mean, he actually talks about it. Yeah, yeah. So there are actually private campgrounds. There's actually not too one. I mean, there's one not too far from here that is actually kind of like what you described. You do have to pay to get in there. It's like $10. Yeah. It's actually just fine. I've never stopped there because I just continue down the road to a free campground. I don't know, but yeah, then you start getting into places like Seattle. So yeah, Seattle does have free campsites because there's lots of people that live in RVs and other vehicles in Seattle. But um, yeah, you have to be you have to be willing to take on a lot of risk to to yeah, live in an RV or car in Seattle, and it's not just from the other campers; it's also from neighbors. It's actually true in any of these cities in Western Washington. That's why you don't see me doing any urban camping. I mean, you can, and I'm okay with doing stuff like that if I'm passing through a city. But around here, if they see you camping in your car more than like once or twice, I mean, they'll put serious fines on you. They can send you to homeless shelters, all kinds of just crazy stuff. Uh, yeah, people. So there is a certain segment of the population that lives in RVs and just kind of trashes the place, and they'll just take up residence on like a street corner somewhere and just absolutely throw garbage everywhere. And there's an absolute ton of that down in Seattle, and it's spread to other cities, and people don't like that, obviously. So yeah, it's kind of given a lot of nomads a bad name. Um, but yeah, so I don't do any urban camping around here because unless I'm just passing through somewhere, it's just too dangerous. Oh yeah, and also the other thing that makes it kind of sketchy is so basically you end up with some of these kind of crazy people that are trashing places. They unfortunately a lot of times are on drugs, and so they're not usually super dangerous, but I don't want to find out the hard way that they're just kind of insane. Then you're probably going to get harassed by the police. Local neighbors are they tend to harass people a lot. There was someone that got a camper because they were actually they had just bought some land and they were planning on moving the camper out to the peninsula. And some of the neighbors actually came down and spray painted their camper, and basically totally destroyed this camper. And this wasn't like random homeless people; these were neighbors in that neighborhood. And yeah, so that kind of stuff happens to nomads that visit Seattle for any length of time. So I don't, yeah, I don't recommend doing that. But oh yeah, where I was going with this. So what happens is, well, happens. It's happened a few times. There will be people that will set up private campgrounds, basically on people's lands for for various vehicle dwellers that you can go camp out at. And yeah, the city doesn't like that. And sometimes they'll be okay for a while. Sometimes they won't. But yeah, it never goes well. I would never stay at one of those. But you know, that's just me. Yeah, park and be left alone. Yeah. You know, actually, I do find it kind of interesting. So, I think I did a video about this a while back. I did get harassed several times living in my old car. This car, I haven't had any issues with. I guess people see a Subaru and see me camping, and it's like, oh, that's normal. Okay. Oh, let's see. What are my preferences, coffee or tea? And what kind of process for preparing it? So, I guess I'm kind of weird. So I don't drink anything except water normally. Yeah, so I'm pretty boring. I've never had any alcohol. I've rarely drink anything with caffeine in it. It's no religious reason. I just don't do it. Having said that, I did live with this roommate, and she was great. She used to make me tea periodically, and I actually really enjoyed it. And so when people make me tea now, I'll drink it. Just not a ton because the caffeine gives me a headache. I'm just not used to it, so I don't tend to drink tea very much. I also had a lot of my students were Chinese immigrants, so they would make me tea when I came over to teach their kids. So that was pretty cool. I like tea. I don't like coffee. Coffee is kind of gross. Yeah, yeah, and so I don't prepare coffee or tea in my car. Oh yeah, people buying land and calling them campsites and then putting them on Airbnb. Yeah, so Airbnb has one. There's another company. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, they're really expensive. Well, right now, I'm up in the national forest, and national forest camps. Well, the national forest campgrounds that are open right now are free. So yeah, people do stuff like that. Well, they'll buy some land and then rent it out for. It's usually around $30 a night around here. Um, I don't know why someone would pay that, but oh yeah, yeah. So that's actually one of the good things that's come out. So this comments talking about walking by and seeing lots of homeless people in all these hotels and stuff. So that is one of the good things that's come out of the pandemic is at least in the Seattle area down in King County, they've been buying up a lot of hotels that went out of business, and they've been putting homeless people in them, which has helped. Healthcare issues. Um, Yeah, so I haven't really had any healthcare issues. I actually, unfortunately, I haven't had health insurance for 2 years, and I just got it at the beginning of the month. In theory, I was supposed to have health insurance. Was it last year? And or starting last year, I guess. And yeah, health insurance is kind of a problem. I mean, at least for a while there, it didn't really matter whether I had health insurance or not because it would have just bankrupted me if I had to go to the hospital. Um, but now it does matter because I actually have a decent income. So I have health insurance now. I just haven't actually used it. I do have to go in to the doctor tomorrow to do a DOT physical. It's one of the things you have to do when you get a truck driving license or you're driving a DOT vehicle, anything over 10,000 pounds. And Yeah, so I have to go in and get a physical tomorrow, but that's part of the truck driving school. So basically, I haven't had any healthcare issues. I'm generally pretty healthy. How many hours a week do I work? Okay, so yeah, it depends. But so when I first started, we were doing 14-hour days, 4 days a week. So you can do the math there. Yeah, so it's what, 56 hours a week, something like that. It's got better for a while, and I was working less. So I have guaranteed 10-hour pay, and for a while there, you could easily do a route in 8 hours, and so I would work for 8 hours and get paid for 10, which was great. But then, yeah, they started offering overtime, and at least when they first started offering, I pretty much had to take it, and then I started paying off debt really fast. I was like, yeah, we'll just keep doing this. So I work somewhere between 50 and 60 hours a week right now. I could be doing between 60 and 70 to a 6-day week at the moment. So during certain times of the year, anytime there's a big sale at Amazon, then we can work 6-day weeks. But generally, I try to keep it down to 5 these days. So somewhere between 50 and 60-hour weeks. Yes, I completely agree. Yeah, this is reading this comment. So everyone should be able to live peacefully as long as they are peaceful. No harm to others by living in vehicles. I agree. Oh, Green Lake? Yeah. Yeah, Green Lake is beautiful. Never really spent a lot of time there. I used to live in the U District. Did that for about a year, but my apartment kept getting broken into, so I was like, oh, I'm out of here. Ended up living out on Alki, Alki Beach. Yep. Oh, do my friends and coworkers know that I live in a car? Yeah, yeah, they do. Answered that a little while back. Sorry, probably weren't here though. Uh, yeah, Seattle will fine me for. I think that it's a fine. I'm not sure. I know if you stay in the same spot for too long, you'll get your car towed, but the rules have gotten really complicated about that because they've decided that if you're living in a vehicle, then that vehicle is your homestead now, so they can't just randomly search it and tow it, things like that. So it's gotten really complicated. So I don't know exactly what happens to people, but yeah, I mean, you get harassed by the police for sure. Yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, if they're making, yeah, I mean, that's why a lot of people are kind of leaving Seattle if they can. Um, so part of the problem, I mean, there's a lot of large corporations based in Seattle or the Seattle area, and so they import just huge numbers of people, and so just regular people with non-tech worker jobs are leaving as fast as they can. Even a lot of the tech workers, they'll only stay for a year or so until they get experience and get a job that pays better. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of the way things are in Seattle these days. Have I considered tinting my windows? So I'm not going to tint the front windows or my windshield because um, I don't want to be harassed by police. You can, but yeah, law enforcement starts getting annoyed with you. My car actually comes stock with tinted rear windows, so I don't have to tint those. And when I'm in them, I keep them covered. So I have window shades, and then I also have screens. Yeah, so reading this comment here. So it just says, "My hat's off to you. You're um, doing the best out of your situation. I know people who don't even try." Um, yeah, unfortunately, that's the way a lot of people are, and a lot of people I think they don't really plan ahead. Um, like I know people at work that they're living pretty much paycheck to paycheck. Anything happens in their life, and they're going to be hurting. And if they don't have a solid plan of what they're going to do, I'm a little worried about them, honestly. But yeah, I mean that's how a lot of people end up getting into drugs. Unfortunately, is they end up on the streets, and yeah, they don't really know what to do. Really, 1,300 a month in Kansas City for an apartment? Yeah, that's I mean that's crazy for out there. Oh yeah, yeah. Wanted to mention something. Yeah, people will ask me about the legality of this, and I don't know exactly in a car, but it's definitely I'm way off into a gray area of living in a car. But the legality of living in an RV. So even if you have your own private land around here, technically it's well, it depends on where you are, but most places will only allow you to stay a certain number of days, even if it's on your own property. People ignore that rule and get away with it all the time, and a lot of people don't care, especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere. But I actually did look at putting my bus on someone else's land. They were renting out an RV spot on their land. I think it was like 700 a month, something like that, which is, I mean, it was kind of higher into my price range, but it would have been a decent place to live. And yeah, one of the things that she was telling me is that she's had city inspectors come by and say that she can't have people living more than I can't remember how many days out of the year, but it's yeah, there's very strict rules about how many days out of the year that you can actually live in an RV. Um, but again, yeah, a lot of people don't. No one cares. Yeah, if you can't afford a house, what are you supposed to do? I don't know. Live in a car. Oh, what window shades do I have? Um, yeah, so if you go onto Amazon, most makes of cars have window shades. On Amazon, I show you. I don't have my rear window shade up because I'm in a campsite, but it's just I didn't make my well. I made my own out of Reflectix when I lived in the bus, and I was never really happy with the results, and they didn't really do much for installation or anything. So I actually found there's these relatively cheap ones on Amazon. They're basically made out of that aluminum foil bubble wrap, and they're pre-cut for the windows in your car. It's really hard to find the right window shades for your car, but yeah, you have to do a little bit of digging. But you can find most cars are have window shades on Amazon, and so that's what I do. Right now for my backside windows, I just have those window screens. But as it gets colder, I'll probably buy the back window set. Oh yeah. So what am I sitting on? So yeah, I'm in my bed space. This is just the back of my car. I guess I'm technically sitting in my bed. Right now, I'm using a. It's an exercise mat. It's like a half-inch foam exercise mat. I guess I don't know. I'm not that picky about what I sleep on, um, so that works for me. I might replace that with like a twin-size mattress at some point, but we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, you're a trucker that's never home. Yeah, this thing I find kind of funny. It's like a lot of truckers live in their trucks. I don't know exactly how uh, why RVs would be any different than like a trucker or something. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yeah, and actually, speaking of truckers, people that live in their trucks. Yeah, for a while there, a lot of the well, actually, I think they shut down all of the rest stops along I-5 here in Washington, and so there were truckers just like parked on the side of the road. And I mean, where are they going to go to the bathroom except in the bushes because they shut down the rest stops? Um, I don't get it. Oh yeah, talking about the window tintings. Yeah, a lot of places have it. So yeah, we have. I know people at work that have really dark window tintings, and they don't get harassed too much. But yeah, it just depends on where you are, where you're driving through. It's super illegal in some places, and they'll fine you for it. I just don't want that in my life, and it's cold enough here that I don't really need it most of the year. Yeah, parking is a huge problem in trucking. Yeah, yep, I could see that. I mean, so one of the things, so I drive a delivery van, right? So we're out making deliveries 10 hours a day, and a lot of people make it sound like it's just an Amazon thing, but all the delivery companies have this problem. Like, where are we going to go to the bathroom? Especially when you're out off in the mountains or something making deliveries, which I am pretty often. Um, I mean, you're driving down all these dirt roads, but everything around you is private property, and there's people watching you basically, so you can't really stop anywhere. So the things like eating lunch or using the bathroom, it's not ideal. There's just nowhere to stop really. How much would I say I spend on gas in a month? Let me think for a second. So I spend, well, it depends on what I'm doing, but in a typical week, um, yeah, so I spend probably about, oh, I don't know, $50. Maybe a little bit less a week, probably less than $50 a week. Um, yeah, so it's right around 200 a month, which is about right, I think. And yeah, so right now gas is actually back down to 4.50 a gallon. We were up at $5 a gallon for a few weeks there, but it's gotten a little bit less. Um, so I actually did the math when I lived in the bus because the bus got about 16 miles per gallon, and so fuel prices would have started affecting me if diesel had gotten up to about $10 a gallon. Um, and so this car uses about half the fuel, and I make more money now though. So probably fuel would have to get up close to $20 a gallon for me to really feel it. I don't worry too much about gas prices. It's not actually um, it's not really my biggest expense. So I park because I don't drive my car much during the week because I just leave it in the parking lot at work. So I only drive on the weekends. Yeah, did Amazon for a bit, killed your body. Yeah, it's physical work. I enjoy it. I actually kind of like being outside. You get used to it after a while. $20 a day makes you 500 on Uber Eats. That's actually not bad. Yeah. Um, I think that's pretty similar to what I was doing when I was doing flex driving with my car. The car was, well, actually that car used more fuel than this thing does. Um, the problem I was having was maintenance, and the number of miles I was putting on my car because it was, yeah, all the maintenance and all the mileage. It was, yeah, it yeah, just the fuel alone was okay, but it was other things that were getting me. 400 a month on gas. Yeah. Oh yeah, California is ridiculously expensive. Yeah. Yeah. So my dad actually, yeah, he moved down to LA, and he was asking me if I wanted to move down there towards him. I was like, no, no, I don't. Let's see. Hang on a second. There we are. Okay. All right. Well, I've been on here about an hour now, so I think I'm gonna stop. I might try to. Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of worked. Might try doing this in a different location or something, maybe outside next time. Hopefully the rain starts. The air quality here air quality here has been really horrible. We've actually been in a drought. Usually it starts raining sometime at the end of September and basically doesn't stop until spring. But for some reason, we're still having summer weather here at the end of, we're a little over halfway through October now. And so it's drought conditions, there's forest fires, and so the air quality is really horrible right now. So yeah, anyways, thank you all for showing up at my live stream here. I'll try to do this outside next time when it's a little bit, so I don't have to break my neck doing this. But yeah, no, it's nice talking to everyone. I'll see you next time on my next live stream or video or something.